Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Yes, you read it correctly. France is sending Le planes to kick Le Russian butt. We got just recently news about France confirming that they are indeed aiming to send upgraded Mirage 2000 planes to Ukraine. The total number is not disclosed. However, in general, people are commenting and stating that France has about 30 of this specific modification planes that are expected to be available for France to either keep or send to Ukraine. It is up in the air how many specifically will arrive, but in any case, it is still good. Now, some people commented on this and stated that, oh my God, it's different planes, it's different systems, so will Ukraine be able to use it? And they're old planes and they're not useful, and so on and so on and so on. And I will continue repeating until this war ends. Ukraine is undersupplied with equipment, and Ukraine is in a position where they just need more of everything. So if it flies, if it shoots, if it able to launch missiles and bombs, it is great. It will do fine for Ukraine. I will leave the link to the article in the comment section down below. It's pretty good. It covers what kind of equipment, what kind of modifications these planes are having, what kind of weapons they might be sent with, because I don't have the time to cover it. As more plane news, Netherlands has announced that they've sent in first F-16 planes to Ukraine. The previous batch, as we know, came from Denmark. Yeah, Denmark. But now Netherlands have sent some of the first planes, and they're stating that the rest of 24 jets will follow. A comment that I have been hearing a lot is, where are they? And this leads me back to when the planes were about to arrive, the first one from Denmark. And I was specifically stating and explaining that for planes to actually have battlefield efficiency, they need to be scaled up. There needs to be a certain number of those planes present so they can fly and actually contest the skies. The number that we are looking at for Ukraine, the critical mass that Ukraine needs, is about 120 planes. More is better, but that is the number for Ukraine to actually challenge the skies. Think about it this way. When Ukraine has up to 12 planes, it allows them to fly individual missions and strike individual targets. And we will hear from time to time that planes have been participating in certain targeting, but most likely they will be used for the air patrol, air defense missions. When we're talking about planes reaching into about 30, 35, what we might achieve with these planes from the Netherlands coming, then Ukraine will be able to execute dedicated aerial missions. So either it could be during the Russian assault, where there's going to be a concentrated aerial mission with a lot of firepower attacking advancing Russian forces and stopping those advances in their tracks by bringing the hell on earth on top of the Russians. Or it could be really intensely helped during the Ukrainian offensive operation, when there are pre-prepared fortified positions of Russians, like bunkers, underground tunnels, stuff like that, and then the planes can come in with glided bombs or heavy missiles, and then they can execute in a very short time frame, like a massive airstrike on the area, helping Ukraine make narrow penetrations against the Russian front line. When we get into the plane count of 60 to 80 planes, at that moment Ukraine is able to execute local air superiority. So for some certain time, maybe for a day or something, depending how unexpected it happens, Ukraine can actually gain air superiority over the parts of battlefield. And we're talking small parts, maybe 100 kilometers or so, as part of the front line that Ukraine can really dominate and really bring that multiplicative effect that the air power really brings, bringing in close air support, enabling drones, enabling a lot of other operations. After that, Russia most likely is going to start bringing in more anti-air units into the area, and it will become a little bit less safe for Ukrainians to fly. But that will be the possibility that Ukraine can do. And once we get into that magical number of 120 plus planes, at that moment, Ukraine will be able to use those planes to execute missions for air superiority against specific segments of the front line. For example, the southeastern part of Ukraine, where the most front line, where the most action is happening, Ukraine would be able really heavily contest that area. And even if Russians will try bringing in some anti-air systems, just the sheer number of the available air power for Ukraine will make it challenging. It will actually become difficult for Russians to operate in that area and to actually work, not only as planes flying in being challenged, but as an actual ground operation will become noticeably challenging. So far, we're still far away from that, but we are getting that. Thank you so much to France. Thank you so much to the Netherlands, Denmark, and every other country that is participating in an air coalition. As we're talking about the air power, something we really need to note about the air power is Ukrainian strikes. Now, mostly I don't cover the strikes, but I want to underscore the pattern that we're seeing. For example, there was recently a strike. So on the blue here, you see the territory of Ukraine and then territory of Russia. It's just about 120 kilometers from the border of Ukraine. There was this facility that Ukrainians struck at night, and there was big explosions. The results are coming in right now, and apparently the damage is not as serious as everyone was hoping for, but it's important because of certain things, and I will get back to it here. We see another strike on Yeisk Shahid base. Shahid are the Iranian drones that Russians are producing to slowly fly into the territory of Ukraine and cause damage and kill civilians mostly. So that base was targeted in Yeisk, which is located right over here, so kind of towards the south of Ukraine. Beyond that, there is also a strike in Crimea, striking the big oil depot, which has been one of the primary targets. Ukraine has attempted to strike that target before, but now the strike was pretty good. Not only the storage facilities have been struck, but also the transport system. So all of the pumps, pipes, and so on, they also were seemingly caught fire. So it was not isolated. And this has now been burning for 4 days. And it seems that the fire right now is still spreading. It's a very important facility, number one facility in Crimea, that is supplying the Russian forces in the area. So what is the pattern that I'm talking about? And the pattern is we're seeing strikes on more and more strategic targets. We saw at first it was like a single or like 2 drones that were flying to Russia. Then it became like 10, 15 drones. Now Russia is claiming that whenever Ukraine is launching attacks with drones, they're flying in hundreds of drones. And not just one direction, they're also flying in different direction. The intensity and Ukrainian capability of striking more targets is increasing. And most importantly, what is paying off, if you remember, at the start of the year, there was a noticeable uptick of Ukrainians dedicated on striking anti-air systems. And we now see there was a long-running strategy of we're going to take out the Russian anti-air systems, so then we have more windows of opportunity to strike against their strategic targets. And it's working marvelously. So it's absolutely beautiful. Ukraine is not stopping. Everything that we're talking about here, about the strikes against the Russian facilities, everything is just increasing and increasing and increasing, which makes it absolutely hilarious of Russians trying to save their planes. So supposedly yesterday it was reported that Russia has transferred their second MiG-31K plane to the Belarusian airfield. MiG-31K is a plane that is able to carry this Kinjal missile that Russia is advertised as a super missile, supersonic, hypersonic missile, which it turns out to be not, but it's still a very nasty piece of equipment that can be shot down, but it's not nice. My expectation is that they're thinking that, oh, well, Ukraine will definitely not strike Belarus, because if Ukraine strikes Belarus, then Belarus can declare that Ukraine has attacked Belarus. Therefore, everyone needs to get up their butts and go attack Ukraine, essentially opening the front line with Belarus. I am almost completely certain. I have like nothing. This is a pure speculation, but it seems to me that this is the way they're going, because it's kind of obvious. It is funny because we already seen strikes of Ukrainians against targets on Belarus. One of the this AWACS, the plane with a radar dish, was actually struck on the territory of Belarus. So I'm actually not sure whether moving planes to Belarus is making the planes that Russia transferred there. And again, these planes are like very, very crucial for Russia. That it's making these planes safer or less safer. Then a very quick update about the situation on the front lines, because there are a couple of comments that I need to make. So the comment number one, right now around the Kursk area, Russians are trying to again restart their attacks towards the Ukrainian positions. They've already posted some videos where they showed that, oh, it was so good. On the first video here, we actually already penetrated Ukrainian positions. We were already going deeper into Ukraine. The problem is that later the second video appeared with the same units, where they were already on their way out of Ukrainian controlled territory with a couple of freshly destroyed vehicles nearby. That was, I guess, they're trying to penetrate and go deep into Ukrainian controlled territory. It ended up very, very poorly for them. But the point still stands. The Kursk is a area where Ukrainians are defending and Russians are trying to recapture it. And I want to make sure that people that haven't watched this video, the video about how Ukraine changed everything and attacked into Kursk, it's a very relevant, because I see a lot of questions and discussions whether the Kursk is worth it, what Ukraine is doing, what is the possible outcomes. And in this video specifically, we go in depth into what the experts and analysts have predicted. And let me just say that everything that they're stating over there is exactly happening. Like the fact that Ukraine right now is fighting Russians, but maybe when needed, they're falling back. It is not bad. This is actually as it was intended, and it was talked about over a month ago. So if you haven't seen the video, see that video. I'm going to leave a link either highlighting somewhere here, or I'm going to leave a link in description. But going further on the frontline map, right now, there is a big discussion about the area of Kupiansk, because there is like some activity of Russians in this area. And the reports are that exactly what I stated in my last report. And I just wanted to show you that, yes, the situation is difficult. Yes, it is bad, but it is not catastrophic. It is still just part of the war. Then we go further down the map. Right now, there has been some Russian reports around Serebryanka. More importantly, if we kind of zoom in, there is this village of Grigorivka. So here Russians run into the most eastern part of this village of Grigorivka with some small group of Russians and a drone, and they like standing in ruins kind of showed the Russian flags, and then after that the video ended, to which Ukrainians responded like, no, they've tried moving in there, like maybe some of them came in there, but like they quickly got derailed. So all of the messages that something is happening right now on this front line, it's again, maybe something is happening, maybe Russians are trying to do something, but the results right now are not there. Then we're talking about Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut. There are reports that there is like some additional activity that is happening, that there are some probing attacks happening on Bakhmut. Then two major news from the position around Pokrovsk. Now, Pokrovsk is a very, very terrible situation here. With that said, Ukrainians have actually reported that they were able to counterattack Russians. Now, the advances that Ukrainians made were very, very local, so they are not even reported on this map. But overall, the fact that Ukrainians are able to counterattack the Russians in this direction is actually pretty impressive, and again underscores that Russians are either running out of steam, or they are regrouping for certain different attack. Moreover, Russians supposedly entered this eastern part of Selidove, which is like the last forepost settlement in this area. And here we see that there was indeed like a small group that came in with like one armored personnel carrier, and mostly it left the Ukrainians scratching their heads because they were just taking apart and they don't really know what it was. So long story short, the intensity of Russian activity over the front line is decreasing overall, already third week in a row. Moreover, we are hearing that the attacks are weaker, less frequent. I would expect that potentially Russia will still try to do additional wave of attacks, additional push. But it does seem that it's taking longer and longer for Russians to recoup their strengths. So I would say that suggestions and the reports that I'm hearing, together with the reports that Ukraine is being supplied with more ammunition now, together with the fact that Ukraine has enough time to build their fortifications on Pokrovsk area, we see the situation seemingly, finally, slowly but surely stabilizing, which is obviously amazing news to hear. Thank you so much for watching this video. I want to end up showing the biggest strength of Ukrainians at work, something that is truly winning the war, and this is this one. This is the humble loader that is loading something extremely crucial, which is pallets of weapons, specifically pallets. I've explained this many times that the biggest advantage that Ukraine has against Russia is the fact that logistics of Ukraine are set up with pallets, with loaders, something that Russia still cannot fully grasp. Most of their equipment and weapons are still being carried by just raw manpower. And this is what allows Ukraine to fight. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for supporting Ukraine. Trust in Ukrainian armed forces. I love you. Slava Ukraini. And I see you next time.